Hello and welcome to Granada Reports on the day the North West made history.
It's been a general election that's delivered a massive national landslide for Labour and condemned the Conservatives to political oblivion, for the time being anyway.
And in our region, a series of stunning results which saw Labour rebuild its red wall and then some.
Just look at this map. This is the situation before we went to the polls yesterday, with large areas coloured blue. Now watch it change and wow, it's a virtual Tory wipeout.
And some of the headlines: Bury, Bolton, Blackpool, now all Labour. Wigan, all Labour after they regained leave from the Tories. Merseyside, all Labour after the Tories lost their one foothold in Southport.
Rochdale, won by George Galloway in that by-election in February, is now Labour. Amazingly, Labour lost Blackburn to an independent, and the Lib Dems are back on the map. They've now got 3 MPs in our region, a great win for them. But incredibly, the Conservatives also have 3 for them. More of a tragic than a magic number.
So coming up, we've got the story of the night and expert analysis on what this could mean in the future.
But first, how this most dramatic of stories unfolded from our political correspondent, Leisha McNally.
Labour Party, 19,200.
Labour and Cooperative Party, 23,200.
Labour Party, 24,670.
The dawn chorus of Election Day sounded just one note this morning.
Labour Party, 24,672.
As again and again, Labour reclaimed their traditional heartland. The big comeback began in Burnley, the party's #1 target wrenched back from the Tories.
Very happy with the result. Excited to get started and a bit of trepidation about being elected and wanting to make sure I deliver.
But he'll have plenty of new colleagues to help him do it. As the night wore on, more of the North West's big B battlegrounds fell to Labour. Barrow, Blackpool North, Bolton North East, Bolton West and Bury North all turned red by dawn. In Bury South, voters chose to follow their formerly Conservative MP Christian Wakeford, who'd defected to Labour, a sign the party has won back the trust of the large Jewish population here.
We truly saw how a seismic shift this has been, not only for the Labour Party but for the country. If anything, it's proof that actually people can put their trust back in the Labour Party, that Keir really has changed it, not just nationally but locally as well. So that now the next job is to change the country.
There were plenty of eyes on Rochdale, where George Galloway was given the boot after just 54 days in Parliament. He didn't turn up to witness Labour's win, but it was still a noisy declaration. The new MP harried by hecklers.
Are we going to be allowed to speak? Is this a democracy?
As he celebrated his party's prospects.
For Britain, I'm so proud that Rochdale is now part of a national wave of change.
It was a wave that kept on crashing on Conservative shores. By morning, there was just 1 Tory left in Lancashire and 2 in Cheshire. Cabinet Minister Esther McVey clung on in Tatton, where 10,000 voters had switched to Labour.
The first thing I'm going to do is make sure I work hard for the people of Tatton. Like I said, they've put their faith in me again, and I will repay that. So that's what I'm going to do. That's my first and foremost that I'm going to do. Oh, I'm going that way.
But which way will her party go now? Chasing reform votes to the right and the Lib Dems to the left, ousted Conservatives are left wondering where it all went wrong.
Yeah, I think there will be lots of questions to answer in the post-match analysis, and the timing of the election will be only one of them. We've got to find a way to reconnect with voters and make sure that every policy we announce is rooted in what decent, hard-working families across the country are looking for, and that seems to be where we've gone wrong.
Still smiling, the Liberal Democrats, whose leader's stunt-ridden campaign here delivered another sting to the Tories as they were ousted from Cheadle and Hazel Grove.
It's great to see the Lib Dems back in the north. It's also great to see us taking lots of seats from the Conservatives, who let people down. This last government has let people down, and people have not been getting the support they needed. I think it turns a page on the last period of time we've had in the UK.
The political map of the northwest has been dramatically redrawn, but Blackburn delivered one surprise blow to Labour's landslide. Their MP lost to independent Adnan Hussein, running on a pro-Gaza ticket.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
It's proof the party has more work to do to win over anxious voters after a turbulent time at home and abroad.
Well, we're really excited to see how he works out now, because I think he's one of the only person who actually came to our doorstep, explained his whole manifesto, and we found it really convincing that he would do a really good job for the community.
I think it's democracy at work. I think people voted. I think it tells you a lot about the policies and the centrist stance of the National Labour Party. This is a reaction to people wanting to be heard.
But like what the Zionists are doing to the Palestinians is absolutely appalling. And can I just say this, that the flag of England, the St George's Cross, St George's mum was Palestinian and his dad was Turkish, so the flag of England is from the Palestinian bloodline too.
Gaza is just one of the big issues waiting on the new Prime Minister's desk, from a country and a region facing a huge economic challenge. Sir Keir Starmer may have rebuilt the old Red Wall, but his greatest challenge will be keeping it.
So what to make of all that then? Joining us now is Leisha McNally, who's normally up all night with a small baby and was up all night with a load of politicians last night instead, and Paula Keaveney, who's a senior lecturer in politics at Edge Hill University in Lancashire.
Yes, great to see you both. Well, what a night. Paula, let's begin with you. What do you make of the fact that Labour have managed to rebuild the Red Wall in this part of the north of England?
Yeah, well, Keir Starmer had to do that, didn't he? He had to make a breakthrough, and he's done it in spades. And, you know, at one point when I was watching the results, it was like, you know, 10-pin bowling with Tories falling all over the place. So, you know, a good job, well done by Keir Starmer. Some people will say, well, you know, the Labour share of the vote wasn't that great. But, you know, this is all about targeting your resources. It's all about campaigning where you're going to have an impact. And Labour managed that in spades.
Yeah, Leisha, they did only get 34% of the vote, fairly low compared to even, you know, their greater triumphs back in '97 and what have you. They've got a lot of work to keep that vote, haven't they?
That's right. I mean, there is that old expression, isn't there, that opposition don't win general elections, governments lose them. That does seem to be what's happened here. And when you talk to even Labour MPs, there isn't that enthusiasm of 1997 and Blair. But that's not to do down Labour's achievement. I think that's more a product of the incredible challenge we've got at the moment. You know, junior doctors are out on strike, prisons are full, councils going bankrupt, small boats crossing the channel as we speak. So, yes, when you look at 2019, it is a big triumph for Labour, but they haven't really got time to enjoy it.
Paula, from across the Conservative Party, you really got the sense that this was a catastrophic night. I mean, are they now in oblivion, or do you think they can make a comeback?
Well, they can make a comeback, but it can't be immediate. So we had a defeated Conservative there saying, you know, we need to talk about policies. Well, do you know what? No one's going to listen for a while. So they need to find a way of thinking about the sort of party they want to be, developing their thinking, looking at what went wrong and gradually rebuilding. So 1997, it took them a long time, didn't it, to get back into power. So I think they can, but it's not an overnight thing. And anybody in the Conservatives thinking it's going to be overnight is making a huge, huge mistake.
But does it involve a deal with reform?
Well, that's a danger, isn't it? Because the Conservatives need to be a broad church if they're going to win on the centre ground, which is where a lot of politics happens. If they do too much of a deal with reform, they risk losing more of those people who went to the Liberal Democrats, and that causes problems down the line. So they're going to need to think about that very carefully. I mean, the Conservatives still have some strength in depth. They still have an infrastructure which reform doesn't have. So what they need to do is think about, you know, building on that infrastructure, how they're going to take it forward, who is the best person to lead the party. I mean, personally, I think they should leave it a while before making that decision, because they need to do some thinking first. They shouldn't just jump onto the first person that comes along. But, you know, who knows what's going to happen.
Leisha, there was definitely a strategy from Labour to under-promise as opposed to over-promise. Is that simply because that if you look at the fundamentals, there really isn't that much money swishing about?
I think it comes down to two things, really. I mean, in the main, I think the main opponent for Keir Starmer here wasn't Rishi Sunak at all. It was general distrust of politics and politicians. They cannot have another broken promise. We saw it in the Red Wall in 2019. Voters were promised levelling up. They didn't get it. look what happened. But Labour do have a real challenge ahead. We won't see them splashing the cash on levelling up bids. We won't see things like HS2, Northern Powerhouse Rail, big expensive projects. What they're doing is they're gambling on growth. They want to create more money with planning reform, business investment, but it does take time. Now, they have a little bit of time. You know, new prime ministers do get a bit of a grace period from voters, but what this has taught us when you look at 2019 is that North West voters are very happy to change their mind if they don't feel listened to. Now, Number 10 will be very aware of that because Angela Rayner, Greater Manchester MP, has just been appointed Deputy Prime Minister, one of the most powerful people in the country. So the North West is still a battleground, even though all those votes are in and counted.
Leisha, Paula, thank you both very much.
Now, perhaps understandably, none of our defeated former Conservative MPs were willing or able to join us. So we're crossing live to Mel Barham in the former safe Tory seat of Macclesfield. Mel, what happened there? Pretty indicative of the national trend.
Yeah, absolutely, Gamal. Quite the historic win here in Macclesfield, a seat that for more than a century has been a very safe Conservative stronghold, now, of course, turned Labour. The new MP, Tim Rocker, with more than a 9,000 majority. That's a 21% swing to Labour, and this is the first time that Labour has ever won a seat here. In fact, Macclesfield has only ever had 5 different MPs, and the Tories have held it since 1918. So quite the upset, and it's clear that this was a seat that both the Labour and the Conservatives were very keen to secure. Both of them sent their big hitters here during the election campaign to try and win voters over. Rishi Sunak and David Cameron were both here, as were Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner. But in truth, this was a seat way down the wish list for Labour, one they certainly wanted, but perhaps didn't dare dream that they could get, alongside other safe Conservative seats like Southport, Barrow and Blackpool South. And of course, Labour's win here means that David Rutley, who held this seat since 2010 and has been a very popular MP here in Macclesfield, has lost his seat. And if we dig down into the results, they show one of the big factors in the story here in Macclesfield has been the Reform Party, who took 6,500 votes, a significant dent in perhaps what could have been the Conservative share. So quite a remarkable result here in Macclesfield, a very significant win for Labour, which mirrors some very big Conservative losses across the North West.
OK, Mel, thank you.
And next, as we've said, the Lib Dems won 2 more seats in our region to take their total to 3, which is a real comeback for them on a night Ed Davies' party did really well nationally. Our reporter Anna Yosef's in Lib Dem country now.
I'm on the edge of the boundary of 2 of those seats, Hazel Grove and Cheadle. Now, these were key seats for the Lib Dems. They wanted them badly, and they've actually managed to oust 2 Conservative MPs. Lisa Smart has won Hazel Grove for the Lib Dems with a majority of 7,000, and it was actually her 4th attempt to win the seat, which proves that persistence can pay off in the end. Labour came in second, followed by the Tories. Lisa Smart replaces the Conservative MP, William Ragg, who stepped down following his involvement in a sexting scandal. The Lib Dems last held this seat in 2010. Tom Morrison won Cheadle for the Lib Dems with a 12,000 majority, beating the incumbent Conservative MP, Mary Robinson. The result marks a reversal of fortune because back in 2019, Mary Robinson beat Mr Morrison by a slim majority of 2,000. Now, behind me here is Stepping Hill Hospital. Part of the hospital was forced to close last November because of structural issues. There were reports that corridors had become flooded and that ceilings had collapsed. And both of the Lib Dem candidates have pledged that should they be elected, they would make Stepping Hill and fixing the problems there a priority. They've now got the chance to try and make that happen when they're in Parliament.
Hello, Yosef reporting there.
OK, we're just going to break off from the election for just a moment, as there is some very important news and sports to bring you. And first, the former nurse, Lucy Letby, has been sentenced to an additional whole life order for the attempted murder of a baby girl back in February 2016. The child serial killer, who's already serving multiple whole life sentences, said, "I'm innocent," as she was led from court this morning. The judge, Mr Justice Goss, said it was another shocking act of calculated, callous cruelty.
You have coldly denied any responsibility for any wrongdoing and sought to attribute fault to others. You have no remorse. There are no mitigating factors.
OK, back to the general election now, and we are now joined by two of our region's new MPs, Oliver Ryan, who's the new Labour MP for Burnley, and Lisa Smart, the Lib Dem MP for Hazel Grove, who joins us from Stockport. Many congratulations to you both. Oliver, if I could first begin with you, a huge victory for the Labour Party. Tell us how you're feeling right now.
Massive victory, you're right. I'm excited, ready to start the job, ready to get down there on Monday and do a good job and deliver for people in Burnley, Padiham and Briarfield, as I've promised I'll do. And no doubt Lisa's going to say the same.
A lot of work for you to do, a lot of work for Keir Starmer to do. There's not a lot of money in the pots, though, is there?
No, I mean, we've been really honest with people through this campaign. There isn't a magic wand. There isn't a kind of a large amount of money, as you say, to invest in some of these public services. But we've got a plan over the next few years. As the economy starts to grow, inflation starts to come down, people start to get a bit more cash in their pockets, where do you invest the proceeds of that? And we see public services as a #1 priority. We've been really clear, we're not going to increase taxes in VAT, national insurance or income tax, but we want to see a growing economy that invests in strong public services, and I think we'll be able to deliver that.
Lisa Smart, in your new seat of Hazel Grove, big win for the Lib Dems, 71 MPs. You fought that seat 3 times before. You've been there at that count 3 times before. 4th time lucky. How did it feel when you actually heard the result go your way?
So it's absolutely wonderful. It is the honour of my life to represent this fantastic community, and I couldn't be prouder. But they've been really clear with us what they want from us. As their newly elected Member of Parliament, I'm going to be fighting day in, day out, banging the drum for this community and for what they need. And you mentioned in the VT about Stepping Hill Hospital really needing investment. I'm standing here in the Chadkirk country estate, a couple of 100 metres away from where the water companies are dumping raw sewage in our rivers, and we need real action from the new government on tackling the cost of living crisis. And I look forward very much to getting down to Westminster and making an absolute pest of myself on behalf of this wonderful community.
We look forward to that. Is it just a protest vote, though? Are the Lib Dems, as Take That would say, back for good?
So I think the largest ever number of Liberal Democrats elected to Parliament tells a different story from that. I think people responded really strongly to our positive campaign, but giving really serious messages while having a bit of fun. People talk to me every day on the doorstep about the challenges they face in their homes, in their lives, in their families. And a vote for the Lib Dems in each and every case has been a vote for a local champion who's going to stand up for our communities in the North West. That means Westmoreland and Lonsdale, Cheadle and Hazel Grove.
Oliver, given that the vote share for Labour was in the mid-30s, I mean, that's pretty low, isn't it? It's extremely low, in fact. I mean, you must be worried that, given that the electorate is so volatile at the moment, if your party doesn't deliver pretty sharpish, things could unravel pretty quick for you guys.
I mean, I think it's the system we've got, right? So it's up to us now to deliver on the promises we've made, certainly around growth, around public services, around what we're going to do with the NHS, the cost of living crisis. We've made those pledges, as we've said. We're not promising the earth. It won't change overnight, but we think we can make real difference to this country, and we'll deliver it, I think.
What's going to be the first few things in your in tray for you?
In my in tray, so I'll be talking about local NHS and ambulance services particularly. Access to dental treatment in Burnley and Padiham is a huge problem, and the cost of living crisis is massive. So I want to see more homes being insulated, I want to see more investment in some of the services that help people locally, and I want to see more cash in people's pockets and a growing economy. So if I can be part of that through a Labour government, then I will be.
Lisa Smart, tell us something about yourself that your new constituents should know.
So I think the first thing that comes to mind is it's my birthday today,
Oh,
and it is
happy
an unusual way to
birthday.
celebrate turning 45, being in the ballroom at Stockport Town Hall, having my name read out by the returning officer. The key thing, though, that probably is of more relevance to the voters of Hazel Grove is that I'm going to work year in, year out to get what they need.
Brilliant.
Oliver, just in 5 seconds, tell us something that we should know about you.
In 5 seconds, I was one of those people that kind of got politicised after the 2010 election, joined the Labour Party. I would have got things like EMA and lower tuition fees and other issues that were arisen at the time. And so I got involved then, and now I've become elected. So hopefully we'll bring some change.
Well, good luck to both of you, and thank you both very much for talking to us this evening.
Yeah.
That is it from us for now.
A shorter programme because of ITV's coverage of the Euros, with that massive game between Spain and Germany coming up next.
And as we say goodbye, the dust is settling on another huge encounter. This time, it was a resounding victory for Labour without the need for extra time and penalties.
Yeah, we can actually finally go back to bed now, can't we? Because it's been one of those days, one of those nights. But
not geeks at all, are we?
A lot of fun, nonetheless. We'll see you later. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Well done.
Have you burnt tea again?
I'm scraping the cooled oil into the bin, not the sink.
Can we eat outside? It's nice.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Hello again. The unsettled theme continues into this weekend and beyond weather-wise. Cool, showery conditions, a bit of sunshine if we're lucky over the next few days, and rather blustery weather across the northwest today. But that will ease down overnight tonight. Low pressure, very much in charge of the UK's weather for the foreseeable future. Briefly a little drier to start Monday before more rain moves in later in the day. In the meantime, this evening, showers will continue for a time, and by the end of the night, perhaps we'll begin to see some rain nudging up into parts of Cheshire, the Peak District, and later on Greater Manchester. Temperature-wise, maybe 8 or 9 Celsius tonight, with drier conditions further north. The sun is up at 4:50. It sets at 9:41 tomorrow, and Saturday is set to be an unsettled day with that rain around for some of us during tomorrow morning before it begins to sink southwards and away. But packing in from behind on that northwesterly breeze, quite a few showers, and some of these will be heavy and thundery in nature, interspersed with a little bit of brightness, and it will generally be drier by tomorrow evening. Cool though, for the time of year, 16 or 17 Celsius, incredibly disappointing, with further showers to come on Sunday, lighter winds. It will be unsettled into next week, but temperatures will get a bit of a boost at least.
It's a little bit burnt.
United Utilities sponsors ITV Granada weather.
Hello, summer. Piri sponsors ITV pollen count.
And all this rain's probably not great for the garden blooms, but it could be serving just to dampen down pollen levels a bit. The unsettled theme this weekend means grass pollen levels are low, moderate on Monday.